Well, I guess it's pretty evident that I'm not too worried about how I look, huh? On this platform. Don't think anybody's gonna find me. Okay. We're doing 10 minutes and I'm starting on page 132. Okay. It was the beautiful Princess Hapa Hapa. She seemed to be in a very fretful and petulant humor and showed her peevishness in every movement. Nothing pleased her. She pouted, hung her head, and threw her baby arms about upon the most trivial provocation. As I learned afterwards, this all proceeded from her unwillingness to marry the lean, bony Megazalto, who was violently in love with her, and to whom the king, in a moment of some great contentment, had rashly promised the princess in marriage, and as King Garu had in doing so taken the Umiloba's vow, may I never be able to jump farther than the length of my nose if I break my vow. He dared not break his word, and of course the old, thin, bony, wrinkled Megazalto insisted upon his sticking to the bargain. The effect of all this was to throw the beautiful Princess Hapa Hapa into a deep melancholy. In fact, she refused absolutely to partake of any food for so long a while that everybody said sadly, she will die. The effect of King Garu was beside himself with grief, but as Megazalto had no blood, he couldn't feel any pity for either father or daughter, and insisted that the king should stick to his bargain with him. Led on at last by the rich reward offered by King Garu to any physician who could succeed in making Princess Hapa Hapa partake of food, one of the court physicians hit upon the following plan. The attendants were directed to set a table in the princess's apartment and load it down with her favorite dishes. Then the lady-in-waiting was instructed to bind a silk band around the Princess Hapa Hapa's body when the latter retired for the night, so arranged so that it would press gently but continuously on the sympathetic nerve and cause her to walk in her sleep. The plan worked successfully. Every night about midnight, Princess Hapa Hapa would rise from her bed while in the deepest sleep, sit down at the table and partake of a hearty meal, after which she returned to bed, when one of the ladies of the bedchamber immediately loosened the silken band, lest she might arise a second time and overeat herself. Princess Hapa Hapa advanced towards me, hopping along with a timid air, until she was close enough to get a good look at me. I was then desired to go through my paces once more, which I did with a great deal of vigor, concluding the performance by sitting down and crossing my legs. Hapa Hapa smiled faintly at first, but when it came to the leg-crossing feat, she clapped her little doll hands and broke out in a laugh about as loud as the low notes of a flute. King Garu was crazed with joy. It was the first time Hapa Hapa had laughed for a year. I could see that there was a hurried consultation going on between King Garu and his fat, lean ministers. I knew only too well what it meant, but Princess Hapa Hapa interrupted the consultation and solved the whole question herself by crying out like a spoilt child clamoring for a toy, "I want him." King Garu burst forth into a loud laugh, in which everyone joined, save the lean, rattle-jointed Megazalto, who scowled fiercely at me, screwing his little face up like a dried apple. "He is thin. Take him, beloved daughter," exclaimed King Garu gaily, "and if he can cure thy melancholy and make thee once more the joy and sunshine of our court, no one of the glamorous gems which deck our royal diadem shall be too good for him." Amid great rejoicing and loud huzzas, a silk cord was tied about my body, and I was led away by the beautiful Princess Hapa Hapa. Bulger resented the indignity of tying a cord around my waist, and came within an ace of setting his teeth in the thick leg of the attendant who performed that service for me. Growling and showing his teeth right and left, the poor, puzzled animal followed me to prison. I say to prison, for that's what it proved to be. Night and day, a guard surrounded my apartments and kept within respectful distance when I was summoned to divert the gentle princess by running, hopping on one foot, walking with my toes turned out or in, or with my feet stretched far apart. But the one thing which delighted the princess and chased the melancholy from the pretty doll face was my ability to cross my legs. This wonderful feat I was obliged to repeat and repeat until my limbs fairly ached. But no matter how often repeated to the gentle Hoppa Hoppa, it was ever new and wonderful, and she invariably rewarded me by smiling and clapping her baby hands. About this time it was that my beloved brother Bulger gave me another proof of his deep affection and most extraordinary intelligence. I had no sooner begun to prepare for bed than I noticed that something was the matter with him. He fixed his lustrous black eyes pleadingly upon me, bit my shoe playfully, tugged at my clothing, sprang upon me, then bounded off toward the bed, sniffed at it, growled in unfeigned anger, and then making his way back to me, began to tease and worry me once more. I was half inclined to get provoked. By turns, I scolded and petted him, all to no purpose. He continued his strange actions, growing, if anything, more and more violent in his manner. At last I was ready for bed. Striving with all my power to quiet and console him, I made an effort to throw myself on my bed so that he might leap up and lie down beside me. But no, it was impossible. With a grip of iron, he laid hold of my night-robe and held me firmly fast, whining and crying most piteously, as if to say, "O loved little master, why is it that thou canst not understand me?" Suddenly, a strange thought flashed across my mind. I stooped and glanced under my couch. Nothing seemed amiss. Then, as if urged on by some unseen hand, I seized the bed-clothing and hurled it to the floor. Lo, the mystery was solved. There, hidden beneath the drapery, shone the tips of a dozen or more tiny blades, each sharper than a needle's point, and as I found upon examination, stained with a poison so subtle that the slightest prick would have robbed me of life. Need I tell you how the tears burst forth, how I flung myself upon my knees and caught that beloved animal in my arms, covering him with kisses? He was satisfied. Again, had he added to that long list of debts due him for me, debts only to be discharged in coin fresh and bright from the heart's mint. As you have doubtless guessed, this cowardly and cruel attempt on my life was the work of that living coil of steel springs, Megazalto, who had determined to put out of the way the hated foreigner, whose monstrous deformities were so pleasing to the being he loved. King Garu was greatly incensed when, upon Bulger's recognition of the would-be murderer in the presence of the whole court, the miserable wretch made a clean breast of it, and related how he had arranged the knives with his own hands. Out of my sight, thou unworthy servant. If I do not command that vile heart and viler head be parted by the executioner's axe, it is because thy father rendered mine priceless services. Go, come not again until I summon thee. King Garu now took me into special favor. In the first place, he was delighted to see how successful my efforts had been to amuse the Princess Hoppa Hoppa, on whose baby cheeks the roses glowed once more, and whose child voice rang out again, as of old, like a flute note or a tiny silver bell. Her Majesty ordered that the court painter should forthwith make a portrait of Bulger for the royal gallery, and that a plaster cast of my head should be taken for the royal museum. I was much pleased with all this attention, but I noticed that the very moment I hinted at the necessity of my speedy return home, King Garu skillfully turned the conversation to some other subject. The fact of the matter was, he feared to have me leave the palace, lest his beloved Hoppa Hoppa should miss my daily performances and fall back again into her melancholy. The little princess herself was not slow in exerting her power over me, snapping the ground with her feet like a rabbit when I failed to be quiet as entertaining as usual, and even going so far as to threaten me with a dose of that living coil of steel spring called Megazalto, when I refused to cross my legs and uncross them quickly enough to please her ladyship. One day, being in a sort of brown study over my position and revolving in my mind several different ways of making my escape from King Garu's dominions, I unwittingly paid little attention to Hapa Hapa's commands. In vain she stormed, snapping the ground with her little feet, shaking her baby hands at me, piping out in the shrill and angry tones at my negligence. I didn't quicken my pace one jot. A heavy load of thoughts oppressed my mind. My heart was full of sorrow. I didn't quicken my pace one jot. A heavy load of thoughts oppressed my mind. My heart was full of sorrow. All that day I had been thinking of home, of the dear old Baron and the gentle Baroness, my mother, and wondering whether they missed me at the castle. Okay. Page 135 is where we will start tomorrow, hopefully. Life's going to get really busy between school and a full-time job. I haven't had like a go into work full-time job in 20 years, I don't think. It's going to be interesting. My goal is financially. I'm at a point in my life where I have nothing to lose. So make it work. Quit procrastinating on anything and everything. Time wasted is just that, wasted. Avoid distractions and the noise around me. Block it out. The art of continuous self-love through food, through water intake, through intentional meditation and thought. Something inside of me is superior to circumstance. Is it kind? Is it true? Does it reflect my authentic self? Focus more on money and its education. Focus more on self-discipline. See the sun, honor the moon. Forward momentum. The path out of hell is through misery. Honor my journey. We are slaves to our own incessant urges to escape the present moment. Meditate, walk, journal, stretch, animals. Leave life to wonder all it needs. Less stress, more fairy tale. Work on bettering the love I show my body through the food and beverage I put in it. With money, it's not what you make, but what you keep. Focus, lose any ties to victim mentality. Continue to help yourself. Maybe I'll start reading that too at the end of every day. This is it. How can I be in my fucking 40s, excuse my language, and have a zit? It's like, WTF. If I take my glasses off, I can't see it. Oh, look, but I can almost see a line here. Where are the glasses at? It's about to get real, real good, real, real good. It's about to get real, real good. It's about to get real good. It's about to get real... Talking about life. All right. Till tomorrow, fools. Boo!